Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. A very special happy Father's Day to everyone, every father in Australia and New Zealand, because we celebrated Father's Day yesterday here down under and across the ditch. For those of you who don't know, we talk about the ditch being between Australia and New Zealand. It's a sort of a colloquialism that we use here. So happy Father's Day to everyone. As you know, I'm a father, and I had a great day, and had morning breakfast with my my two daughters and my daughter's partner and my son, who is down in Newcastle, 1,000 kilometres away. He rang in and said g'day. So yeah, and I got a new. We do gifts on Father's Day, and I got a new like a double guitar stand. It's kind of cool, which I'm really pleased. I chose it. So I kind of knew what I was getting. But anyway, it was nice of the kids to chip in and give that. So I hope wherever you are that you had a lovely day, regardless of whether it was here in Australia having Father's Day or whether you're OS, and I just hope you're safe and sound and in good health, good vocal health. Today we're going to be doing a Q&A, and I know that many of you will be looking forward to that. Just to let you know, next week we'll be doing a mini topic. Next week we're going to the mini topic subject, and I will let you know. Sometimes I keep you in suspense. Next week we're going to be talking about performance presence, performance skills, and stagecraft, stage presence. And this is something that is there are some things that you can be mindful of in your development of your stagecraft that can really put the polish on your vocal performance. We spend so much time as singers focused on getting the voice right that often we don't spend enough time thinking about the overall performance, the framing, the patter, how we use our mic stand, those sorts of things. We're going to talk through that next week. I think you'll find it helpful and give you some ideas to really workshop into your next performance. And so that'll be good. The week after that, so in 2 weeks, it is school holidays here. So I will be on studio break, so we won't have a live hangout, as I said, in 2 weeks' time. So I just wanted you all to know that. Now, something that I have noticed in our live hangouts is that we get a lot of comments, and you can't see as many comments as I can see. As in, I've got in the software I use, I've got a little counter that tells me how many comments. So, for example, I'll let you know. At the moment, we've had about 20, maybe not even that, about 15 comments that have gone into the live chat. But actually, there's been 47 comments made into the live chat. Now, you might go, well, what's the discrepancy there? Well, the discrepancy is the only way your live chat comment, typing into the live chat, will register on screen is if you subscribe. We have a particular setting that we use here at Voice Essentials where you must be a subscriber to make a comment. And on top of that, it will make you wait 5 minutes to make a comment after you've subscribed, because again, it's a safety thing. We use it to really mitigate trolling and poor behavior. So I hope you understand that very necessary firewall, if you will, that we have in place. And so if you do want your comment to be seen by everyone, then you need to make sure you hit the subscribe button. And while you're at it, hit the white icon button, the white bell icon, and just so you get the notifications for when we do go live. We go live every Monday well, most Mondays when I'm not on holidays. Most Mondays, 1 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Check your local guides for your time. It's literally your time right now, 5 minutes ago. And then you'll also get the notifications for other videos that I put up live. We put up at least another 2 videos every week. Mondays and Thursdays they go live. We do, what else do? We do instructional videos. A lot of instructional videos and reaction videos, analysis videos from the point of view that we are analyzing and assessing the singers that we're reviewing, and we're, you know, we get to observe really fabulous singers doing their thing, and we get to you know, work through what are they doing really well, because, you know, there's a reason why often these people garner the response that they garner, but also what are some things that we can learn from what they're maybe not doing as well as maybe they could be doing. And so we always look at that. So I hope you'll be able to check that out. We've got a live poll going on at the moment, and you might want to vote. We've had 9 votes so far. Come on, there's more than there's 10 of you watching. Who hasn't voted? Which singing habit is hardest to break? So we've got straining on high notes, neglecting warm-ups, running out of breath, and overthinking technique. And Linda made the comment earlier in she made the comment that hers isn't listed. Well, Linda and everyone else, if yours isn't listed, you might want to throw up. What is your, don't throw up. You might want to write. Yeah, my instruction to you is not to start throwing up. No, my instruction is to throw up your comment into the chat. Which singing habit do you find the hardest to break? So far, as I said, we've got 9 votes. And right now, it's neck and neck. I'll share the results of the poll later on, but right now it's as I said, yeah, neck and neck. We are running. Oh, 10 votes. Oh, yeah, it's very, very evenly distributed. It has to be said. We'll check that out a little bit later. Now, all things being equal. Oh, by the way, did you enjoy last week? I know it was last week we had Joanne Bozeman on, and it was such a fascinating conversation, and about POTS and hypermobility. You may or may not have heard of that stuff before, and I hope if you hadn't, it's informative. But particularly for those of you who have and maybe suffer with it, we know from Mackenzie Kate, who is a regular here on the channel, sharing her struggles with hypermobility, that she will have found it interesting. But anyway, make sure you go back and check it out if you think that's something that you'll find helpful. We do have, from memory, 3 more guests already lined up between now and the end of the year. And that's something that I remain quite committed to, getting these international level, highly respected people onto the show to share their expertise, sometimes very, very specific, as in last week's show, but more often than not, very generalized help for us all, so that we can take away and implement into our own singing. And that's the standard that I'm always pitching at for you as a community. And so I hope you can jump in there and have a watch and go back. There's a massive catalogue of guest speakers that we've had here on the show. And so I know that you'll enjoy those. All things being equal, I think our live questions onto the screen are going to work today. So let's see if I can. I think this is going to work. Let's see how actually let's do this first, and then we'll get into our Q&A. Okay, our first question. And this comes from Dren, who's a name I had not seen up until just recently. Dren, if you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome. How do I get the kind of stamina so I can sing every day at full capacity? And the interesting thing about that question is he then I don't know whether it's a he or a she because the name doesn't really tell me. The next question that they followed up with was, or is it not possible? So you got to leave your voice rest a bit. Let me come back to the opening statement. So how do I get the kind of stamina so I can sing every day at full capacity? Firstly, the premise of the question suggests that you can sing every day at full capacity, and that is not something that we would typically advocate for, Dren. Typically, we're going to be encouraging at least one, and I prefer, particularly amongst avocational singers, at least 2 days of vocal rest. That's what I prefer to see my students applying, because I think you're going to get the most out of your vocal journey that way. And so that could literally, you could time it so that every Wednesday and every Sunday you take some vocal time off. And I'm not saying complete silence in those days. I'm talking about, no vocal exercise or performance or practicing of songs, just really reducing that sense of vocal dose, because we want the voice to have some downtime. Just like it is not healthy to be at the gym every single day of the week, it's not healthy to be singing every day of the week. Your body needs rest and repair time. And I've said many times here on the channel, there are so many challenges for us as singers that could be avoided. And I'm talking wear and tear and damage here. So many things that could be really avoided if the singer had or taken the opportunity to rest the voice. Because just like any budget, if you just keep spending, and maybe you run out of your own cash, so you start spending onto a credit card and you keep spending that, eventually, when you live in the red like that, on borrowed cash all the time, eventually you will bankrupt yourself. And it's the same with your voice. If you just keep spending the vocal capacity that you have, just keep spending, and keep pushing, moving the voice beyond, you will run out of capacity at some point. You are a biological instrument, and your voice has biological, physiological limits. Can your vocal budget be developed, enhanced, grown? Yeah, it can. It can. We do a lot of things in our voicing, in our vocal lives, that can improve our stamina. We can do things like employing the disciplines. In fact, one of the questions that we have in today's question, of which we've got 13 votes so far, what is which singing habit is hardest to break? The second one is neglecting warm-ups. When you neglect warm-ups, not only are you is that going to have an impact on the moment, the actual vocal session you're about to do, it has a longitudinal effect. And because every little bit of vocal wear and tear on your voice has an impact over time. And so these little things, these are little, less than 1%ers, but they're little things that over time all add up. And so when we warm up on a consistent basis, we're improving our vocal stamina overall, but also in the moment. It has been shown in research that the voice that has been sufficiently and properly warmed up will not only last longer in a set of singing, but it will repair quicker on the other side once the session is done, particularly also when that session has got that additional vocal cool down added as well on the end. And so all of these things are going to be really helpful. As far as then developing that stamina beyond doing all of these things that we've talked about, like in the past, we've talked about warm-ups, we talked about hydration. We of course, we're, you know, all things being equal here, we're talking about your technical abilities being the best they can in that particular moment. You have to build your stamina over time. And so, you know, I shared with you about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I did a 10K run with my sister, who I joined her for 10Ks. She was running 50Ks for a charity run. But I didn't just front up and do 10Ks. I had to, and neither did she. She didn't just front up and do 50. Both of us had to develop and work up to that run. Otherwise, if I had done the 10K run, just, you know, front up and do it, I would have been, I think, I might have been in some bad shape. As it was, I wasn't in too bad a shape after the 10K run, because I had prepared and you know, eased myself into that over time. We do the same with our singing. We develop over time. If you're an absolute beginner, we start with 20 minutes every second day, and we add 5 minutes every week until we're up to practicing anywhere between 45 minutes to an hour every second day. And then we can start to add perhaps another day of practice until, like I say, you're practicing up to 5 days a week. And if you're able to, I mean, honestly, life being as busy as it is, if you're able to get 5 really decent vocal practices in of an hour, 5 times, you know, do it 5 times a week, man, you are doing well. Like you're really going to experience development in your singing. I don't know that you're going to get there any quicker if you do it 7 days a week. In fact, as I said, I think you're probably going to get there slower, because you're going to have even more downtime, purely because the voice is really perhaps struggling. Yeah, so there you go. Dren, I hope that was helpful. I'm going to come back down here to Vava. Has got a question, if I can find it. Here it is. But I'm just going to make sure. Oh, remember I hit questions and people's things. Anyway, get on with it, Daniel. Dr. Dan, I have a question. Well, that's why you're up here. My question is, how do you crack? How do you do a crack while singing and change note after the crack ends without sounding like a dying chicken? Adele does it to give you an idea. Thank you. What I think you might be referring to there, Vava, is she's using if I'm thinking of the right vocal effect that you are thinking of, because we don't have an audio example here, but that you're calling it a crack. That vocal effect is typically employed by a registration shift, and where the voice just, and it is intentionally done by most singers who know how to do it or choose to employ that skill, that idea, I should say. And so you might want to have a listen to the way the voice sort of moves. It almost comes across, the way I just did it, almost comes across a bit like a yodel if you move the quickly between the two. But that's just that mechanism. There's a slight change in air pressure, and it's moving between that probably a shortener dominant into really flicking into almost a flute register / falsetto space. And so that, I think that might be what you're doing. How do you do it? Well, first of all, you have to really develop your registers in one sense in isolation, but then you learn to bring them together and recognize where are those transitional spots for you and know where they sit and how to move between them smoothly, so that then you can learn to break that rule of smooth transition. Well, actually, let me restate that. Smooth transitions is not a rule in contemporary singing. In classical singing, it very much is. But you can approach it with the idea that let's learn to smooth those transitions out, and then, break the rule after you know how to apply the rule. That kind of concept. But a big part of it is you knowing where those register moments are, so that it's that intentionality of register change can be employed by you. How are we going with the poll? We've had 17 votes, which is pretty good, because currently we've got 19 people watching live, and again, it's a pretty even spread. So if you haven't voted yet, take a moment to vote. I'm looking over here and seeing, I keep looking this way because that's where my screens are, but it looks like I'm looking the opposite direction to that. But I can see Karen from Singwise is in the chat, and Rebecca's there. Good to see you all, everyone. Okay, Mr. Fomiati. Hello, Mr. Fomiati. Let me come up here to our next question. Oh, Rebecca has made a comment. I had my church solo, and all helpful tips really helped me in a huge way. Thank you. Well, Rebecca, I'm so pleased. Thanks for reporting that, because that's why we do what we do here. It is all about providing you with, firstly, the information, because if you know more, you can sing more. But secondly, supporting you as a community, not just me, but everyone in the chat, everyone who is an active part of this community. We are all here to support each other. And Rebecca, I'm so pleased that you really felt that in the lead up to your solo, which is just awesome. I'm going to come to Mr. Fomiati, who's got a question for us today. Mr. Fomiati, correct breath management is essential to great singing. True. How important is it to really know the tune off by heart to find the best possible outcome regarding breath control? I love you the way your brain is thinking on this, Mr. Fomiati. I often talk about breath management in songs as being something that we need to choreograph. And you might be thinking to yourself, what does he mean by that? Well, in some songs, and this is not in every contemporary song, because breath management, we will all really benefit from developing our breath management. Breath fuels the voice. And so having a really well-managed breath flow that you are never completely running out of air in, for example, that's one of the challenges that we've listed in today's poll. We're never really, the idea is not that we're able to manage that airflow in a really consistent manner. But there are those challenging songs, whether they have big long notes or whether they have big long phrases, where there are only very specific moments where a breath can be taken. This is where we need to choreograph our breath. The idea of choreographing a breath is this. If we take the word choreography back to dance, for example, in dance, and I've done a bit of music theatre performing over my life, and Dance was never my strong suit. But, you have to choreograph the steps, right? And the thing about dance, certainly for someone as a poorer dancer as I am, you miss one step and it throws everything else out, and then you just got to wait until you can find where can I get back into the flow. The same thing can happen with your breathing. If there are certain songs that if you miss the opportunity to breathe at an exact point where you have choreographed that breath intake, there is nowhere else to breathe that is appropriate to the piece that you're singing. And so we always have to think about that. And this simply can mean going through, having your lyric sheet and going through and putting a breath mark at certain points. There may only be 5 to 10 like really necessary moments in a particular song that you absolutely must take your breath at that exact moment, because if you don't, you've got another whole phrase where you just can't take a breath. And so the reality is, if you do miss that choreographed point, then you're going to have to take a breath eventually, because you've run out of air, you're going to run out of note. And so the point being is that you have to be, you've beyond learning melody and lyric, now you have to learn where to breathe, and you're learning to, as I say, choreograph. Mr. Fomiate, I hope that is helpful. And as I said, some songs absolutely need that. Not just want it, need it. Whoa, the questions are flowing thick and fast. Let me come over to here. This is Erwin has written, I'm ashamed to sing at home because I'm afraid people will hear me, and that hurt my voice because I try to sing softer. What can I do about it? Erwin, there is a whole video I actually have on the channel about this, and the reason there's a video about it is because this is a rather common issue for people, particularly young people who live in shared housing arrangements where you've got flatmates, and you are wanting, or maybe you live in a single room apartment, but you've got other people on this other side of paper thin walls, and you're trying to be, considerate to those around you. I think firstly there's two things at play here. You're wanting to be considerate, and that's to be admired. And secondly, I think also there's a little bit of tentativeness going on, a little bit of, even for some people, embarrassment around the idea that they're learning to sing, and the concern that people will hear their voice. So what I always encourage in these moments is to, whether it be with your flatmates, people you're living with, or the people you are living alongside, open a conversation. Tell them what you are doing. Tell them, I'm having a singing lesson. I'm learning to sing. And so at times you may hear all sorts of weird and wonderful sounds coming from, my room or my apartment. And I want you to know that I'm okay. No one's dying. And secondly, part of the process is me making weird and wonderful sounds. And I just wanted to let you know. Now, more often than not, you will receive unless you live next to a completely unagreeable human being, more often than not, you will receive a lot of support in response of going, hey, good on you. That's great. Fantastic. It also then opens the second line of communication, which then allows them to say, fantastic. Would it be okay if you didn't do it after 8 o'clock at night? Yeah, no worries. Would it be okay if you didn't do it 9 o'clock in the morning because I'm a shift worker and that's, when I'm likely to be asleep. Yeah, no worries. See how it opens the lines of communication. I'm not suggesting this is, the simplest thing to do, but it certainly creates the opportunity for you to have that conversation and communicate the journey that you are on. For those students over the years that have had the opportunity to do that and taken my advice, it has, again, more often than not, been a really positive thing to have done. And, some have even said, I wish I had done that sooner. I would have saved myself a whole heap of, as I said, embarrassment or concern. And it frees them up to do some seeing, because now you're no longer wondering, what does next door neighbor A or B think? Well, because you now know what they think. You had the conversation. And so that's really something important to do. You are right, Erwin, to say you want to be careful that you aren't just singing softly to avoid being heard. Now, the reason we want to avoid this is because that is going to de-energize the voice, and it will wear and tear on your voice quite quickly. In good vocal technique, we never want to overdrive the voice. One of the things here is in today's poll is, we don't want to strain on high notes. That's a habit we want to get out of. But and that's that idea of driving the voice too hard when it gets high. The other thing we want to avoid doing is de-energizing the voice. We never want to be really lax in our vocal activity. And so, yes, we want you to be able to sing in a free, clear, energized way, Erwin. And anyway, so I hope some of those ideas I've just given you prove to be helpful. Knee-bish, oh, I can never say it, knee-bish. I'm just going to say knee-bish. We know I've tried so many times, haven't I? But I can answer your, well, I haven't read your question yet, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try to answer your question. Or before we do, let me have a look. Let me have a look to see where are we at with we got 21 votes. Woo! I'm gonna end the poll after I answer Nabisha's question. I'm gonna end the poll. So, if you haven't answered the poll yet, put your vote in, and it's interesting result. It's always an interesting result. Okay, here we go. I can sing louder, stronger when not swinging words. Just go sounds with not why is it, what words are hard to get out. Is it air pressure we need to employ better? I've got to read that again. I can sing louder, stronger when not swinging words. So are we talking about when you're not singing swing jazz? Just go sounds with not why. Just go sounds with not why is it that words are hard to get out. Is it air pressure? Look, it's going to come down to, I'm going to do my best here to answer your question in a way that makes as much sense as I can of the question. Your whole system, your air, your larynx, the sound making mechanism with the vocal folds, up into the resonance, the vocal tract chamber, and the articulatory spaces are all a part of one system. We can think of them separate, like we can separate them out into 4 different points, but ultimately they're all working together. And certain points of articulation, and I'm not only talking about consonants now, but I'm also talking about the shaping of our vowels, can have a backward influence on pressure and the oscillation of the vocal folds. We get an acoustic interaction on a resonance filtering level of what our mouth and resonance space, along with the articulators, are doing and how that influences back onto the vocal folds and the oscillatory patterns of the folds. And so certain words, dependent on the vowel, perhaps the consonant, and where you are in your register, in your vocal range, may well have a detrimental sum total. And so they can be quite challenging. And this is the thing about singing, is we are wanting to mitigate in our shapes and all of those things so that we don't hear those substantial speed bumps along the way. And so it may well be that when you are, and I'm just going to answer it as if you do mean swing jazz. I'm looking to see if we're getting any okay. Sorry. Linda has written in, that's a typo, Daniel. Yeah, okay. So I can sing louder, stronger when not singing words, not swinging. Well, that gave me a bit of a red herring steer, didn't it? When not singing words, thank you, Linda, when not singing words. Yeah, so the very point that I'm making here is that when we just have a straight open vowel melodic line that is not being shaped into words, that can be a lot easier because we're not interrupting that flow of air or changing that and having that back influence on the vocal folds themselves. So when then we come to employing lyric words, then yeah, you are going to have to manage those changes, and part of that is going to be the air pressure aspect of it. I think we might have had, yes, we did. We got an extra vote, and I think we should go to that straight after. I'm going to reveal all. I need some water. So the question was, which singing habit is hardest to break? I only put 4 options in here. It could be argued there are countless singing habits that are hardest to break for us individually, but we wrote in 4 here: straining on high notes, neglecting warm-ups, running out of breath, or overthinking technique. Ending the poll, 3, 2, 1, and this is the results that we got. So a third of you are saying straining on high notes, running out of breath, neglecting warm-ups, and overthinking technique. And that's a pretty, I think what that talks to us about is the diversity of challenges that we experience. And you may well be thinking to yourself, I could have ticked every single one of those. And if you could have, I think you're probably just normal. I know that the straining on high notes was something that I really struggled with in my earlier years of singing. Not so much now, and it's not because my technique is that much better now than it was. It's just that do you know what? I don't feel the need to sing at the very top of my range all day long any longer. And I think that comes from the fact that I'm not a professional singer anymore. My money notes were all at the top of my range, and so straining on high notes was almost a what do we call that? A workplace hazard for me. But certainly overthinking technique can be a real challenge, can't it? Because we can get all up in our head with our vocal development and be so focused on the technique that we forget the communication. And that's what we despite the fact that we are a Learn to Sing channel here at Voice Essentials, where we're constantly encouraging people to develop their voice technically, we're also about communication. Great singing is not about perfect notes. It's about communication. That's what we're ultimately aiming for. We do that through the development of our technique. but we do want to be careful that we don't get too caught up in the technique. So that's something to think about. I'm going to go to one more question, which is from Stanna. And let's see if I can find it up here. Gee, there's been a few questions here today. I'm going to have to... Oh, here we go. Here it is. This is from Stanna. Hey, and just to let you know, remember at the beginning of today's show, I said that, you need to make sure you subscribe and whatever to make a comment. So we're up to nearly 500 comments on the live show. Like, there's a lot of activity going on. But again, if you want your chat made live within this show, you do need to subscribe. So if you're a person sitting there going, why is no one responding to me? It may well be because you haven't subscribed. So there we go. Okay, so Stanna, can you explain, this is the last question for today, everyone. Can you explain why is it easy to sing high in the bathroom or when wearing in-ear monitors than in open air without IEM? I love this question. So, Stanna, the reason being, firstly, when we're in a shower, we have a resonant space that is supportive to our voice. And so because we feel that sense of support, we don't push that voice as hard. Hey presto, with less tension, less ease of air, less push of air, the voice is able to travel that much higher with greater ease. The same kind of idea is happening with IEMs in-ear monitors. For those people who are wondering what IEMs, well, you've written it there. When wearing in-ear monitors is because you've got that direct feedback. It's nice and close, and you will feel the support of your own voice coming back to you. But when you are either you don't have good fallback, whether it be IEMs or floor monitoring, or when you are in an outdoor area, open air, there is no resonance. So what happens in open air, sound works on reflection. It needs to bounce back at you to give you a sense of, yes, the voice is close. But when you are in open air, it just goes. It doesn't come back to you. And so the voice will feel very empty. It will feel very unsupported and really thin. And you can find yourself working really hard in those environments. When we work too hard, we drive the voice too hard, the voice is going to struggle across the board. But you'll definitely notice it in those higher notes. And so, great question, Stanna. I hope that's helpful to you. This is one of the reasons why I always advocate to singers to where they have some level of either control or permission to always ask for fallback. And so in the case of myself, the church that I sing in, my home church, we don't actually have any floor monitors sort of set up. So I bump in my own floor monitoring system every time I lead worship at my local church. Why? Because I don't want to get to the end of the service with a voice that feels like it's just run a marathon, because it's not a marathon. But if without fallback, I could certainly get to the end of it and feel like it's run a marathon. And so I go to the trouble of bumping in fallback every single time I sing. And I'd be encouraging you to do the same. Never skimp on your fallback, whether it be IEMs or floor monitors. You absolutely need it. It is not a crutch. It is a necessity for your vocal health and the quality of your performance. And certainly would, support you in that approach. Folks, that brings us to the end of today's show. I hope you've enjoyed today. We didn't get to all of our questions. Patricia, I'm sorry, JP Gaming. I do see you put some questions there, but we didn't have time today. We'll be back next week. I do try and fit in some 2 or 3 questions after the mini topic. Next week's mini topic is about performance skills and stage presence. We're going to be looking at that. But I do hope you'll take an opportunity to subscribe. Hey, hit the thumbs up button if you've enjoyed today's Hangout, if we've been able to help you with some things. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week, everyone, and continue to sing well and continue to sing wisely. Use your voice wisely this week. And if you took an opportunity to vote in today's poll, remind yourself of what you voted for. What's the habit that you are finding, the biggest struggle? Focus in on that this week with your own vocal development. I look forward to seeing you again next week. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.